Hello everyone. So, my name's Adam and I am a Formula One fan. I have been a fan since 2013. My favourite driver is Lewis Hamilton. Been a fan of his since I first started watching. Obviously I've been watching him during his dominant years and now things are changing a bit, but I've still been watching to this day. And starting now, 2026 season is just around the corner. We got the Australian Grand Prix starting in the next couple of days, which is exciting. We've got new regulation changes, we've got new cars, we've got new teams, we've got Audi and Cadillac joining now, which is going to make it much more exciting with more cars on the grid. So this introduction is just going to be little predictions video and maybe just a little bit about me as well and my experiences with Formula One. So my first prediction, I'm going to be predicting the top 8 in the driver's standings, which I and what everyone else has been predicting will be the 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris and 2 Red Bulls. So in P8 I have got Isaac Hadjar. Now, Isaac Hadjar's only had one full season of Formula One in the Racing Bulls. He's managed to pick up one podium, which is very impressive for a debut season. Very impressive third place at Zandvoort. And he's been given the call-up to replace Yuki Tsunoda, who wasn't quite putting in the performances. And I believe with these new regulations that anything could happen in this season, and I think Hadjar is the right choice for the second driver. Obviously, Red Bull haven't had the best history with their second drivers. Obviously, they've had Tsunoda, they had Lawson for 2 races, they had Perez for a couple of years, but didn't work out well. They had Alex Albon, and they had Pierre Gasly. So basically, every driver back until 2019 hasn't been up to the level of Max Verstappen in that Red Bull. But if you see the results that Verstappen's putting in at Red Bull, and you're not getting anyone anywhere close, and then Red Bull dropping to 3rd in the Constructors 2 years in a row, where you've had Verstappen as champion, and only missing out by 2 points in 2025. But I think Hadjar is the right guy for the job, as now that we're in a new set of regulations, everything is wiped, everything's resetting, everyone's going to have the same knowledge of the cars, and I think Hadjar definitely has it in him, but I'm not going to be putting him above the top 7 just because of experience purposes, and I don't think Red Bull are going to be up there for the majority of the season. But I do expect him to get maybe another podium, but it depends really on their reliability with their new powertrain. But yeah, I'm going P8 Isaac Hadjar. Moving on to P7 now. This is a driver which is potentially in his final year of the sport, which is not going to be well for me, obviously, because I've been a fan of this guy since as long as I can remember. He's been my idol, my hero, everything. He's one of my favourite people of all time, and that's Lewis Hamilton. Now, obviously, new regulations, he can forget all about the ground effect era, he can move on with this new regulations, and he is more comfortable in the car, but he's in a Ferrari. Now, as much as Ferrari have been quick during testing with Leclerc's 1-lap pace and Lewis's race simulations, I just don't have the faith in Ferrari at the moment. Unless they can surprise me when we go to Australia, I don't see Ferrari being close. I could see them winning races. I hope Lewis can win and at least get a podium unlike 2025. But from what I think, like, a lot of people have disagreed with me, but I think Lewis is going to be P7, and if he does finish there, I don't see him re-signing, just because this is the season where everything's changed. If it's not getting any better, nothing's going to change going into 2027. So there's not really any point to carry on. Although he has said in many Instagram posts that he's not going anywhere. But it's difficult because everyone's going to struggle because it's Ferrari at the end of the day. He hasn't even got a race engineer at the moment, as the Adami has got sacked. Obviously, they didn't have the best relationship, and obviously Lewis wanted to bring Bono from Mercedes to be his engineer, but that didn't happen in the end. But yeah, I really hope I'm wrong, but I am saying Lewis to be P7. And that Ferrari aren't going to give him the car for this year. But I do think he will do a hell of a lot better than 2025. Now, since I've gone on about Ferrari, move on to P6, even more regrettably, I'm saying Charles Leclerc. Now, it's a little bit the same reasons with Lewis. The Ferrari looks good in testing, but this happened in 2025. Ferrari were about half a second quicker than McLaren in testing. They got to Australia and they were getting beaten by Williams. So testing doesn't really mean much, and I think throughout the long season, Mercedes are going to be quickest, McLaren are going to be up there, Verstappen's going to be up there, obviously, in the Red Bull, no matter what car he's in. And that just leaves Ferrari below. And I think over the course of the season, Leclerc will not get enough points to be above 6th place. And I really am praying that I am wrong, because Lewis and Charles are the two drivers I want most to win a championship. But I'm going with what my head says, not what my heart says. And for the same reasons, I'm saying Leclerc P6. So now that I've got Ferrari out of the way, I'm going to move on to P5, which is one of the Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli. Now, Kimi Antonelli has had one full season in Formula 1 now. He's done very well in my opinion, although the points and the table don't say so. But I think the mid-season he had was just getting to him. But the end of the season, he was amazing for a 19-year-old. It was very impressive to see. The P2 he got in Brazil, holding off Verstappen at the end. He managed to get a podium in Las Vegas after starting close to the back of the grid, because he managed to go 49 laps on a set of hard tyres. It was very impressive, and I really hope that if Mercedes do have the best car this year, he will be definitely going to get his first win this season. However, once again, I'm bringing experience into the question and playing it safe, that I don't think Antonelli can get above 5th place unless Mercedes have a dominant era like they did at the start of the Turbo Hybrid era in 2014. I don't see it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was higher. But I think I just about edge a couple more drivers above that could potentially be below what other people have said. But I do have massive faith for Antonelli, and I can guarantee he will win at least one or maybe even couples of races. He could challenge for the title. If Mercedes have the quickest car and he can take what he did last season, at the end of last season into this season, he could easily win the championship. But over the whole season, I'm going to say he'll be 5th, but I will not be surprised if he is a lot higher. So now, moving on to P4, we have got the first McLaren on this list, and I'm going to say Oscar Piastri. Now, Piastri, I felt very bad for him from 2025. He led the World Championship from Saudi Arabia to Mexico. Like, that's a long time throughout the season, and he didn't even finish 2nd. He finished 3rd in the championship. He was 104 points ahead of Max Verstappen, and he lost to him by 11 points. Now, he had a massive slip-up at the end of the season, and he only started bringing the results back in when it was too late. And of course, him and Norris were disqualified in Vegas. And it is, I think, his confidence might have been but he is probably the chillest guy on the grid. He only gets annoyed if it's taken away from him, not if he makes a mistake or anything else. It's just if it's taken away from him. But the thing with McLaren do struggle at the start of new eras of Formula One. We saw it in 2022. Obviously, they went from 4th in the Constructors, losing that to Alpine. We saw it in the Turbo Hybrid era. They started well, obviously, because they had the Mercedes engine, but then they changed to Honda, and look how that went for them. GP2 engine. Fernando Alonso, 2015 Suzuka. We'll never forget that. But obviously, it's McLaren at the end of the day. They'll find a way. But I do think at the start of the season, they are going to be 4th best. But I reckon give about 6 races, get to maybe Miami or Monaco, I think they will definitely be back challenging for wins. But I think because of that poor start, they're not going to win the championship. Or are they? I'll leave that until later. But the Drivers' Championship, you've got to be consistent for the whole season to have any chance. And if they are 4th quickest at the start, it will be very unlikely for them to win the Drivers' standings. So I'm going to say Piastri P4. So after what I've said about Piastri, I'm sure people would guess P3. I'm going for the reigning world champion, Lando Norris. Now, I was very happy when he won the championship. I'm glad that it was finally not Verstappen that won the championship. But it happened the way it should not have done. He should have wrapped the title up races ago. Definitely Qatar. Well, yeah, probably. And of course he got disqualified in Vegas. That didn't help. But it's a difficult one with Norris because I always said last season, even when he was behind Piastri, he finds a way to win. He did it with Verstappen in 2024, but he was definitely miles away, but he kept winning. He can definitely win the title with not the quickest car. It's definitely possible. But I'm not going to say it for this year, but I am saying he will get top 3. So I hope he does do better, but I'm putting more faith into the 2 above him, which we'll get onto. But McLaren, they're definitely going to win races. They're definitely going to be up there. They're not going to be as dominant as last year. I'd be highly surprised. But they're definitely going to be consistent. Obviously, with their driver pairing, they're definitely going to be the most consistent team on the grid once they get the car to fight at the front. But I do think that they're not going to win the drivers this year. Obviously, it could happen if they can go into Australia and be up there. But for now, I'm going to say 3rd and 4th for the McLarens. Norris just ahead of Piastri. So, we're down to the top 2. And obviously, they are Max Verstappen and George Russell. Now, one of them is in a car that probably isn't going to be the quickest car on the grid, and the other one is probably going to be on the quickest car on the grid, but it is Max Verstappen at the end of the day. And as much as I don't want it to happen, because I'll be honest, Verstappen is the last person I want to win the championship, but from what he did last year, he missed out on the title by 2 points in a car that was only the quickest car for maybe about 5 races. And he got the most wins, which I admit is highly impressive, but highly annoying at the same time. But then you've got George Russell, who is now the number 1 driver at Mercedes after Lewis leaving. He's now going into a new set of regulations where Mercedes definitely look favourites. Russell is the favourite in the bookies, he is about 2-1, which is quite likely for Russell now. But who do I have as my champion? Now, second place, I have got George Russell, only because I do think that I've said this about Russell a lot. He makes mistakes when he is at his highest point. We've seen it in a couple seasons now where as soon as he's about to fight for whenever he battles for wins, he bottles it. If he's comfortable out in front, he will dominate the race. But if he's fighting for a win whilst being second or third, he finds a way to bottle it, and he's not going to be dominating every race. I do see him bottling a lot of races this year, even though he's going to have the quickest car. I will not be surprised if he wins the title, but I have to go with my head and what I've seen throughout his career. And I get it's new regulations, it can all change, but Russell, he still makes mistakes. And we don't know how reliable they're going to be as well. We've seen a lot of mechanical issues for Mercedes in testing, although they were mostly on Antonelli's car, but they're still there. Mercedes are getting some reliability issues. If they can't sort that out, major points are going to be dropped. So I'm saying he will finish second, and he will finish above both McLarens and both Ferraris, but he won't win the championship, which a lot of people think he will, but I'm not saying he's going to. And finally, P1, annoyingly, I'm saying Max Verstappen. I don't want it to happen, but the form he put in from last season that I think he's definitely going to bring into this year. I understand he said he's not happy with the regulations, but it's Max Verstappen at the end of the day. He could win in the third fastest car, let alone the second quickest car. All he needs to do is qualify on the front row or third, and he will definitely fight for the win every time. But I understand people say, oh yeah, but he doesn't like the regulations, he's going to quit. He might quit, but if he wins the title this year, he could quit. If he doesn't win the title, he might quit too. Honestly, it's a win-win. He might quit either way. But I do think that no matter how bad the Red Bull could be, I still think he's going to be up there, and he's going to dominate some races. And I feel like he's not going to have any fight with his teammate. I reckon definitely both McLarens, both Mercedes, both Ferraris are going to take points off each other. There's not going to be a first driver, I don't think, because I think Antonelli's definitely going to be up there fighting Russell a lot more. So I do see a lot of teams losing points, and I think it'll give Verstappen enough. I do see the title, maybe it could go to Abu Dhabi. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more than 2 drivers going into Abu Dhabi that could win, just like 2025. But I think Verstappen definitely has a better chance this year than last year. And if he only missed out by 2 points last year, he probably will win this year if he's got the right car. Now, we don't know the reliability, obviously, because Red Bull have now got the new engines. But I don't want to predict Max to win. But it's just what I think, not what I feel. So, yeah, I'm going to say Max Verstappen. But I really hope I'm wrong. But, yeah, so that's my top 7 in the driver's standings. So I'm now going to say the top 4 in the constructors' title. So now, P4 in the constructors, obviously because I predicted them 6th and 7th in the standings, it's Ferrari. Now, they finished 4th last year, obviously because their car was terrible last year. But for the same reasons, again, like I've already explained, I don't see them being above the top three. And I think they'll be quicker. I think they'll have a quicker car than the Red Bull, but I think Verstappen's too consistent, and he's gonna get he could beat Ferrari's score combined. It's possible. If Ferrari finishing that low, and I'm predicting Verstappen to win, he could win it on his own. They may not even need Hadjar's points, but obviously, I want Ferrari to win. I want Lewis to win the title. I want Leclerc to win the title. But I just don't feel it. And I think people are getting really overhyped just because they topped in testing. I just don't see it. But I want to. I just can't get ahead of myself. Because I just know it's going to come back to bite me. So I'm just going to stay calm and just go what I originally thought. That Ferrari will be P4. So moving on to P3. I'm going to say Red Bull again. Obviously, they came third last year as well. I'm saying Verstappen will win the title, but I do think Hadjar is going to be too low in the standings, a bit like Perez in 2024, to get above third. But they could potentially, if Verstappen can dominate the championship like he did in like a 2023 season, which I don't see happening. If it did happen, he could win it on his own again. But I think he's not going to win the title as much as he would if Red Bull were going to win the Constructors. I could see Hadjar potentially getting close to the Ferraris to give them a bit more of a chance of maybe getting P2, depending on the gap between Verstappen and Russell at the top. But I think the safest bet is to put them third, just because of the consistency of two better combined Mercedes drivers with Antonelli alongside Russell, because I think they're both going to be consistent this year. Now, so P2 and P1 obviously are going to be either McLaren or Mercedes. Now, last year, McLaren dominated. Mercedes managed to get P2 in the standings thanks to Antonelli finally getting some form and helped them out a lot. They managed to beat Red Bull in the end. And obviously Russell was so consistent throughout the whole season. But as much as I think that Mercedes will have the quickest car this year, I think that if Mercedes are finishing second and fifth and McLaren are finishing third and fourth, I think that in the point standings that Norris and Russell, P2 and P3, will be closer than Antonelli and Piastri, P4 and 5. So if you did the maths on that, I think that McLaren, even though they're finishing third and fourth, are going to be Constructors' champions again, which sounds insane, but I just have a weird feeling. If what I'm saying is, if what I say happens in the Constructors, it's going to be really close. But I just have I think Norris and Russell will be closer in points to Piastri and Antonelli. It could go down to the wire just like it did in 2024. But I'm going to edge it to McLaren again, which sounds quite boring because I've predicted the top four in the exact same order as 2025. But from what my driver's standing says, it seems right. If Russell can get further ahead of Norris and be close, if him and Verstappen dominate the championship, I definitely think Mercedes would win. But I do think McLaren will be consistent enough, and I definitely don't think Piastri's going to have a massive blip like he did last season. I think he will definitely be consistent this season, which will, I think, help McLaren to win the Constructors. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. A lot of people I've seen put McLaren P4 just because they don't think they're going to improve. I wouldn't be surprised. But this season is the most difficult to predict. No one is going to be correct. No one's going to get everything correct. If you do, then you're not human. You're a time traveller. It's going to be a very unpredictable season. I'm excited, and I know everyone else is. but that's how I think it will end up from what I've seen in testing and what's going to progress throughout the whole season.